Okay, so now continuing to harp on rifleman's posture, shoulders forward to hips, which rocks you into the balls of your feet, knees slightly bent, hands up 90 degrees, hands at eye level. Either your outlet stance at 30 degrees at about shoulder width apart, or your modified isosceles at about shoulder width apart with one foot slightly back so that you can absorb recoil. So now how do we apply this stance to movement? Krav Maga, when it comes to the outlet stance, teaches us that if we go forward, push off of the rear foot to go forward, push off the front foot to go backwards. There's different ways that we can step. When we step to the right, we can either lead with our right and our left follows, or to protect our groin, which Krav Maga is big on, we can step with our left, covering our groin, and step to the right. Most tactical guys are big on don't cross your feet. If we use our modified isosceles, it's the same concept. Rear to go forward, and then forward to go rear, okay? So front foot pushes off to go backwards, rear foot pushes off to go forward. With that being said, when it comes to teaching students movement, it's one thing to just get them moving around and changing direction and doing all that. When it comes to movement, though, when it comes to movement applied to techniques, is where things start to get hyper complicated. So in Israeli Krav Maga, you have the opponent, and initially when the fight starts off, you're more than likely going to be facing what's called their live side, which means that you're squared off with the opponent and they can hit you with all four, both legs, both hands, strikes. Ideally, in just about any martial art, really, you want to fight on the opponent's dead side. So change the angle to where now you're quickly facing a offset of your opponent and you still have all four limbs to fight with. However, they only have these two until they redirect towards you, which they will do. When it comes to applying footwork to drills, one of the key problems that students often deal with is, say, for instance, a complex method or technique that involves knife. Knife is high risk and has more movement involved. So even in training, you'll see the students, they will attempt to control distance, which is good, which is what we want to do with a knife, and they'll be out at this distance, and the bad guy, or the person role-playing as the bad guy, is about where this triangle that you see on the ground is, and they'll attempt the move from essentially all the way back here. And knowing that they have to cover this large gap, they overthink it in their head. Performance anxiety gets the better of them, and again, they telegraph their movement and try to supercharge it so that they know that they'll cover an adequate amount of space in order to conduct the technique. So they'll go like this, and then they'll hop and super explode, right? In real life, if you do some kind of movement like that, one, they're going to hack your head off with the knife while you're in movement. And then two, the opponent will be moved and out of the way before you're able to do whatever follow-up technique it is you were going to use. The reality is that if someone is attempting to stab you with a knife, they're attempting to close that distance to CQB range so that they can get in close and cut you. If they're going forward and you're retreating backwards, they're still going to go forward faster than you can go backwards. So you're either bailing out, running away, or closing distance on your terms to finish the fight. At any rate, when you start to deal with the edged weapon, you're going to be right here, not way back here. And make no mistake, I am not teaching knife right now. And you'll see where I'm going with this in terms of distance here in a minute. But essentially, the knife is kind of the best way to sort of introduce people to footwork. Fundamentals are everything. You have to get this right in the beginning, or by the time you get to knife with students as an instructor, you'll be reteaching footwork after they've done a trillion repetitions the wrong way. with no real understanding of what distance on a knife looks like, right? Until they get there, and that's bad. Because now you got to undo a lot of things to redo a lot of things. So start them out young. Hook them when they're young, right? So the reality is that when the knife assault happens, or any type of assault happens that is going to end in CQB, close quarters battle, you're going to be closed in distance with the opponent. So inside of this triangle is representative of the angles of your opponent. And you are closing distance with them. As you can see, I'm punching over this triangle, which puts me in strike range. I could be in kick range, going through my target, puts me over that triangle, which puts me at kick range, still relatively close to the opponent, to this triangle. So this is where most of my footwork drills should more or less start. Also too, it's going to, the simple movements in this footwork drill are going to remove that performance anxiety and that telegraphing, because students are going to realize real quick that the distance they need to travel on an opponent, even if it's I'm at kick range and I need to get to that corner, is just that, right? It's a much shorter distance, right? When things are grandiose, scary, complicated, they tend to look larger and get larger through our perception. When your adrenaline's pumping, right, and things are scary, they can look bigger, larger, more intimidating than they actually are. So this footwork drill will put things in perspective, and they'll get a lot of repetitions. You can do this at the beginning of every single class. They'll get a lot of repetitions doing this simple footwork, and start to realize that footwork is a lot easier than people make it. Like I say, I mean, in reality, somewhere around 80–90% of all your fighting happens from the waist down, not the waist up. But we get so fixated and fascinated with, you know, Hollywood, right? In Hollywood, all the action happens from the waist up. All the film that they shoot on Jason Bourne is all with his hands, right? That's where the fun stuff is, the cool stuff. Occasionally you'll get a wide shot with a kick, and then it's back to the waist up. But everything that's making their hands dangerous is happening from the waist down. Boxing coaches start with the footwork. Kung Fu Shaolin monks and Sifus harp on and beat in footwork and stable platforms and setting your roots until students are blue in the face before they start to move on to anything else. So footwork is the key. What you're doing from the waist down is the key. And this drill will help students develop a comfort zone with movement, with distance, so that they're not making these over-telegraphed, overemphasized foot movements. So the drill is this, and it's very simple. You start at about whatever strike range, whether it be punching or kicking, or you could even be step and kick into punching, right? But whatever that range you are going to train on, and that distance you're going to train at, you're at the apex in whatever stance you're in with your hands up, and you're simply going to move to that corner, and you're going to push off to this foot, not up. It's not a hop and a skip. Students are going to find out how to push off this foot just enough to get to their reference point. Then they're going to come back, reset their stance. Now, you can either go with the Krav Maga protect my groin step and come across and travel this way and practice that footwork. Or you can lead with the right foot going to the right. The idea being that this foot always comes with. As students continue to do this drill, some of their shortcomings are going to be that they're going to step and they're trying to get back super quick to just do the drill, and they're going to leave feet behind and pull themselves back to the apex. And as you can see, what that ultimately leads to also is I'm not coming back to a proper stance. Or they'll hop forward, bring that trail leg up, and then when they come back, they'll put their feet together to go the other direction. This will also help you reinforce that when I move, however I move, my stance is always maintained. Helps reinforce movement into a stance, helps reinforce bringing that trail leg up and forward along with the movement, helps reinforce understanding of realistic distance, gets rid of telegraphing, overemphasize movements, all those things. This is a collie drill. This is a collie footwork drill. In our combative school, we use collie for a lot of drills, both upper and lower, to increase hand-eye coordination, increase reflexes, simplify movements in other martial arts, deal with grip breaking, and things of that nature.